What if I told you that a professional manager sees exactly the same thing as you do? And it's true. They do. The same players in the same positions, in the same spaces. There's no secret player that you can't see. No secret spaces opening up. But the real difference is how they think. It's their thinking which connects what they see to what they perceive. And it allows them to create lots of different pictures. And those pictures can sometimes be so strong that they become a victim of their own thinking. They actually start to overthink. So in this video, we're going to uncover exactly what top managers think about, what they are actually looking at during a game, what they are looking for, and what they are looking to do with all that knowledge. So stick around to the end and you'll get an immediate thinking upgrade the next time you go and watch your next game of football. So let's dive into it. Phase 1. Managers are problem solvers. Now, managers don't watch the game like a typical fan does, because a fan, when you think about it, doesn't need to make any big decisions. They're passive. They are, relaxed most of the time anyway. Managers need to watch the game with an intention to firstly spot problems and then figure out how to solve them. But another massive thing that they will constantly think about, and it's something that's massively overlooked by a lot of people, is actually related to the mental state of each one of their players on the pitch. A manager knows their players better than anyone else and can often spot very quickly if something doesn't look right. They need to ensure that each player on the pitch is primed and focused on their role within the game, not just in one moment, in every single second. And if a player is not, then it could massively dictate changes later on in the game. So that kind of sets the foundations to how a manager thinks and the sorts of questions they ask. Now we must understand exactly what they're looking at. Phase 2. The brain dictates the eyes. Managers look at a number of different things throughout a football match, and many things you wouldn't even ever think to look at. But the first thing is key, and it's formations and structures. And by the way, if you fancy learning about any of this stuff in more detail, I teach it in my course and community, which now, by the way, has over 100 members, most of which are probably watching this video right now, so thank you guys very much. Please go and check it out in the description if you haven't already. Now, often a manager will set their team up on and off the ball in a way that causes the opposition problems, and they need to confirm early on in the game whether they have picked the correct structure. Because there's two things that a manager can do. They can either stay true to their principles and their structure and just go with what they think, or they can kind of adapt their structure to what they think the opposition are going to do based on any pre-game analysis. So let's take this example. Imagine these are the early stages of a game. The blue team on the ball are playing in a 3-4-2-1 formation, with one of their centre mids dropping between the centre backs when they are in possession, allowing both full backs to push higher up the pitch. Now, due to their pre-game analysis that they did, they are expecting the opposition to line up in a 4-4-2 mid-block, which would give them an overload on the first line, allowing them to push their centre-backs wider to then force a greater distance for the pressing team to cover. But it would also mean they are matched up in the middle, with the option of one of the number 10s dropping into that midfield line to create an overload. But it also means that they can match up along the front line if both full-backs stay nice and high. So you can see what I'm getting at here. They're set up in a way that creates problems along each line for the opposition. But the opponent don't actually end up playing like this. Instead, they change up their typical off-the-ball structure to adapt to what they think the blue team might do on the ball. They instead go for a 4-3-3 mid-block. They've got an extra body now in the front line to be able to screen those central passes, and if the centre-backs push wider, they've now got two players who are closer to each. They've now also got an extra body in the middle to either match up or overload. And because they now have more body centrally, they can force the play wide to an area where the blue team are weak if they have pushed both fullbacks forward and they end up losing the ball, because that is a far greater distance for these fullbacks to cover to then get back into shape. Again, this is all very hypothetical, but you can see what I'm getting at. The manager of the blue team in this instance would possibly have to adapt their shape to try and get the most out of this situation. But the second point is probably more important. A big part of what they actually look at 90% of the time is what happens off the ball. Instead of just watching the individual on the ball, they are looking at what happens around it. Does the player on the ball have enough support? Where are we causing the opposition the most problems? And are we as a team ready for the next action? And this links to the vital third point that I'll get onto in just a moment. But these off the ball moments you'll find are often far more vital to the outcome of the game. Phase 3. a chess match. Now, the absolute main thing that managers look for is how well are my team doing at managing each phase of the game. Because where fans will watch events like fouls and goals and throw-ins and corners, managers watch each phase. And there are 4 key phases that you need to know about: in possession, out of possession, attacking transition, and defensive transition. And the thing that many people don't realise is that these are not isolated moments. Managers ensure that they all link together. And I refer to the analogy of a chess match because if you think about it, in a chess game, you have to always be thinking 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of your opponent. And you always have to be prepared to what the opponent might do next. Here's an example. Here we are in possession, but suddenly we play a stray pass and we lose the ball. The opponent can then easily spring into a great transitional moment. The question is, were we prepared well enough to defend that next action of the opposition winning the ball? No. Let's look at the same situation again, but this time with some slight tweaks. So here again we are in possession. We have closed our central distances slightly to ensure that we have a better opportunity in the counter press to win it if the ball is lost in that area, because we've got more bodies around the ball. We are also going to push our wide players up all the way to the back line and try to overload in wide areas. This is going to give the opposition wingers something to think about, and it means they might be pinned back to mark one of our players, which destroys their transition out wide because now they've got a greater distance to cover when they win the ball. And the final thing is to give ourselves more cover in the rest defence. Now this allows us to play with slightly more risk to our game and progression, knowing that we are better prepared for if we lose the ball. So how players respond to each phase of the game and how well they react to certain moments are what managers are constantly looking for. Phase 4, the action plan. So what are managers actually looking to do now with their knowledge that they've gained throughout all these different phases? Of course, they're looking to win the game. That's pretty obvious. But how? Exploiting opposition weaknesses. Their game plan must be adaptable to where the opposition weaknesses are going to show up on the pitch. And every team has a weakness. Even if you're the best team in the world, you will still have a weakness. It's just about identifying it and forcing it to appear more often through how you approach the game. Here's an example. One weakness of the opponent might be that one of their centre-backs isn't very comfortable stepping forward. So you know that if you ask your striker to play more on this player, either A, the striker can drop, he might be followed a little bit late by the centre-back because remember he's not too comfortable, still allowing that space in behind for another runner and making the centre-back's recovery time to get back in a lot greater. Or B, the striker can drop and the centre-back is completely hesitant to step forward and because of this doesn't follow the player. And so this player can turn when he receives the ball and start a really good attack, effectively becoming a spare man. The blue team now know one weakness of the opposition that they can look to exploit. And this gives them more of an intention to their attack and play to say, lads or lasses, I want you to find this player every single time. And if you're the striker, I want you to drop in these types of situations when we have the ball. That's a piece of detail that managers will constantly be given to their players. And the more the blue team try to exploit it, the more the opposing team will become exposed and then might need to change their own approach. This is how managers will watch a game of football. They have to consider every single possibility. No wonder it's a tough job. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you did. It helps out massively. And I'll see you on the next one.